everybody, Mark aka the Nerdy Punk back again today for a new video. Hope you all are doing well. Today I'm going to do a continuation of my film diary series that I started on the channel, where I'm going to talk about every movie that I watched every month. So this is July 2021. They're the 13 movies and TV shows that I was able to watch this month. Again, I did watch a few other things, and there are some seasons of TV series that I didn't finish this month, so I didn't include them in this video, but I will be including them in the future if I am able to finish those seasons. Alright, so 13, not quite as many as last month. Of course, last month I was able to hit 23, which is one of my all-time high numbers. 13 is a bit more realistic for me. I had a lot more going on this month. Had a couple trips, went to visit some friends and family, so I was away from home quite a bit more this month. So not quite as high of a number, but still 13 movies and TV shows for me to talk about with you guys today. Now I am going to be doing a little bit different style of video with this one. Instead of like having me on camera and showing you titles, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you pictures and of either movie posters or the physical release that I own, and I'm going to do a voiceover. So we'll see if this style works. This is really the only video that I plan on using. This series is really the only one that I plan on using, this style of video. So we'll see how it goes. You know, maybe leave some feedback in the comments if you're like either really offended by the style of video or if you like it. Okay, let's get into this. First movie that I have to talk about today is The Blues Brothers, released in 1981 originally. Now, I have seen this movie many times before. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, one of my favorite comedies, and I had the privilege of rewatching it early on in the month. I have picked up, as you can see in the picture, I have picked up the 4K release, the new 4K release of The Blues Brothers, and that was the one I was able to watch, so I checked it out on 4K for the first time. It looked really good, as most of the older movies tend to do on 4K. And I loved the movie just as much as I always love watching it. One of my all-time favorite soundtracks, incredible blues music. John Belushi was fantastic in the movie, of course. Dan Aykroyd, etc. So, The Blues Brothers was movie number 1. The second movie for July of 2021 was The Sandlot, originally released in 1993. Another movie that I have seen many, many times before, but it's one that I watch every summer, typically. And I was able to check this one out on Netflix. I do have a physical copy of it, but I think I was away from home at the time, so I checked it out on Netflix. And I enjoyed it again just as much as I always enjoy the film. Like I said, it's one that I rewatch every summer. It's the perfect summer movie to me, along with, you know, something like Jaws, for completely different reasons, obviously. But I love baseball. I've loved baseball since I was a kid, and the movie really reminds me so much of my childhood, even though I didn't grow up in the 1960s like this character did. I used to get together with kids in the neighborhood and play baseball games like they do in the film all the time. So, huge nostalgia factor with that one. Next thing, I watched, or I actually rewatched, I still haven't gotten to a first-time watch yet. I rewatched Season 2 of BoJack Horseman. Now, I have seen BoJack Horseman several times before. I'm currently doing a rewatch of it, and I was able to finish Season 2. I'm well into Season 3 now, but I haven't finished it, so I'm not going to talk about it today. Every few months, it seems, I have the urge to rewatch BoJack Horseman. It's one of the most underrated shows of all time, in my opinion. It has probably the best interpretation of depression that I've ever seen in the history of TV and movies. It is so realistic. It is dark. It is, it's very tough to watch at times, but it's such a good and real show, even though it's about anthropomorphic animals. It's got a great mix of just comedy and like silly comedy and this really dark exploration of depression, and I love everything about it. Season 2 is one of the best seasons. It's either, for me, Season 2 or maybe 3. Also, Season 4 is pretty damn good. It's hard to pick. Every single season of this show is good. But anyway, continuing my rewatch of BoJack Horseman this month. Okay, we are finally to the first-time watch for me this month. I watched Fast Times at Ridgemont High for the first time ever. Originally released in 1982, I picked up the Criterion Collection version of this movie in my first haul from the Criterion sale, and was able to check this one out. And it was so good. It was hilarious. It was just as good as, all the other teen comedies from back in the day. It was also, I was impressed with the subject matter it discussed. Not only is it obviously like a sex comedy, but it also discussed things like abortion, and there was some pretty heavy stuff in this movie to kind of go along with just the kind of lightheartedness and funny parts of the film as well. So it absolutely deserves the classic status. Another movie with a fantastic soundtrack. So Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Next thing that I watched this month was the first trip to the movie theater. I was able to make it to the movie theater twice this month. And this movie was Summer of Soul. Came out, of course, in 2021. Directed by Questlove. This is Questlove's debut feature film. And this film I thought was really interesting because it explored the Harlem Soul Festival, which was a little-known music festival in Harlem, New York in the 1970s. It was actually 1969. Yeah, 1969 was when this festival took place. But anyway, this festival happened, I forget exactly how many people they said went. It was at least a few 100,000. And this happened, and then it was recorded, and those tapes were lost for decades. And so Questlove was able to track them down last year, I believe, or sometime in 2019, and was able to edit together some of the footage, as well as interview people who were there and create this documentary. And it was a really enjoyable documentary. If you like music, especially if you like soul music or blues, it's one that you definitely should see. Next one that I watched was a movie called House from 1977. This is also from the Criterion Collection, another sale pickup from my first haul. This is an insane movie. It's, like I said in my haul video, I believe another YouTuber described this movie as, the process of, or the experience of taking LSD without having to take it. It's crazy. So many crazy visuals. It gets funny very quickly. It is such a strange movie. Such an unbelievably strange movie in the best possible way. It's almost impossible to describe how crazy this movie is. I mean, all kinds of shit happens. We've got a house that fills with blood. You've got, some dude gets randomly turned into bananas. It's a crazy movie, and I loved it. So House, it absolutely lived up to the hype, and it was a fantastic movie. So go check it out if you haven't. Number 7 for this month is Bowling for Columbine, originally released in 2002. Another Criterion sale pickup from this month. I've seen this movie many times before. I'm a huge fan of Michael Moore's documentaries, and I've mentioned that in several videos in the past as well. This movie was the one that he won an Oscar for, and it is, in my opinion, his best. He did a great job of exploring, gun culture and violence in the United States and some of the kind of underlying causes of that. And I thought he made a very cohesive and good argument during the film. And unfortunately, the whole time I was thinking about how much this problem has, how much worse this problem has got in the United States since 2002. I grew up, going to school post-Columbine. So, I grew up in a world where, this was a real thing and something that happened more often after Columbine. And now, just to think about all of the mass shootings that happen, every day in the United States, it's a problem that is only getting worse. So I think this is a movie that many people could learn from. And definitely an enjoyable documentary. The next film I watched this month was called The One and Only Dick Gregory, released just this year in 2021. This is a Showtime documentary about Dick Gregory, who was a stand-up comic, a black stand-up comic who became famous in the 1960s. And of course, that's during the Civil Rights Movement. And Dick Gregory was very notable for his style of comedy, as well as his fearlessness and his leadership as an activist, not only for civil rights, but other things down the road in his life as well. And it did a great job of detailing his life from his very beginning, his roots in, the 1950s and 60s in Chicago and St. Louis, and how he really kind of rose out of the comedy scene there. So I found this a really enjoyable watch. Dick Gregory, when he was alive, was obviously one of my favorite comedians, and he's just an all-around great person. So I enjoyed watching this documentary and learning more about him. Okay, number 9 on my list, I was able to watch season 2 of George Lopez. Last month I watched the first season, and this month I finished season 2, and I'm pretty much finished with season 3. So I'm about halfway through the series now. It ran for 6 seasons. And this was a show that I grew up with as a kid, and it was on the Nick at Night programming block on Nickelodeon. And that was, if I ever was having trouble sleeping, or, I was sick or something, and I woke up in the middle of the night, Nick at Night was always one of my go-tos. I always loved watching it, and I would look forward to, like, the weekends when, I didn't have to worry about school, and I could stay up late and watch these shows, and I just loved that growing up. And George Lopez was one of the ones that I watched, day after day after day. I've probably seen the series all the way through at least 3 or 4 times. But it was something that I hadn't watched in several years until I decided, in June to start rewatching the series again. And I was reminded about how incredible of a series it is. Like, yes, it's really funny, and you expect that with a comedy show, but it also balances out that comedy with some very dark subject matter. Like, it focuses a lot about George's childhood, and the series is semi-autobiographical. So it is based on some of the things that George Lopez dealt with in real life growing up. It deals with his absentee father. It deals with potentially mental abuse at the hands of his mother, alcoholism, tons of stuff that is dealt with in this series, while at the same time being incredibly funny. You know how I was talking about BoJack Horseman, and I love BoJack Horseman for its portrayal of depression. But at the same time, BoJack Horseman can feel like a downer, and sometimes that's good, But George Lopez is not a downer. Every episode, you just walk away feeling great because it made you laugh for a half hour, even though it did deal with some pretty difficult stuff. So every time I rewatch it, I seem to be more impressed with this show. And it's obviously got a lot of nostalgia with it being something that I watched growing up. So hopefully I'll be able to talk about Season 3 and maybe more next month. Next up, I was able to rewatch a Green Day live concert, Green Day's Bullet in a Bible concert from 2005. This was on the American Idiot Tour, and I've seen this concert dozens of times easily, maybe more. I used to watch this when I first got into Green Day around 2015. I bought the CD and DVD combo, and I watched it over and over and over again. So nothing new here, but it was just an enjoyable thing to watch. I think I'd had a few drinks that night when I watched it, so it was something that it was kind of a spontaneous thing that I wanted to watch. And part of the reason, I think, also is because Green Day is currently on tour again, and so I kind of got the itch to watch a Green Day concert. So Bullet in the Bible, always an enjoyable watch. Number 11 is my second trip to the theater this month, and it is Roadrunner, a film about Anthony Bourdain. So I made it to the theater twice, and I saw 2 documentaries this month, which is very unusual for me. I usually don't get to watch documentaries in the theater, but I like the opportunity when it presents itself. And I really enjoyed this movie. I was a big fan of Anthony Bourdain during his life as a chef, as a travel host. I loved his show Parts Unknown, and I was really looking forward to watching this, and it was able to come to a theater near me, so I had to go check it out. And I thought it was a really well done documentary. There are some issues that I had with it. I feel like it tried to over-explain the reasons behind his suicide, and I felt like it maybe shouldn't have done that. I feel like it points fingers at times, and that feels, uncomfortable. It feels maybe like something it shouldn't be doing. But it is directed by Morgan Neville, who also directed the Mr. Rogers documentary that came out a couple years ago. And it is really well done. Great use of music in this movie. Queens of the Stone Age performs an original song, a brand new song in the movie. And I loved that. I'm a big Queens of the Stone Age fan. And I enjoyed learning more about Anthony Bourdain, obviously, and his early career, especially, that I really didn't know a whole lot about. So it did a good job at giving some, biographical information. It was also really good at exploring mental illness and depression and things like that. And it did hit home quite a bit on occasion. Some of the things that, Anthony Bourdain wrote about, talked about, really kind of resonated with me. So I really enjoyed this one, and I do recommend checking it out, especially if you're a fan of his. Definitely try to make it out to a theater. It just came out, I think it came out the second week of July, so you may still be able to catch it if it's at a theater near you. Otherwise, definitely check it out when it comes onto a streaming service. Okay, we're down to the nitty-gritty here. The next thing I was able to watch this month was Season 2 of How I Met Your Mother. Again, another classic sitcom that I loved watching. I started watching this show, I think, after Season 7 came out. That summer's when I started watching it. So that would have been, 2012, 2013? I think 2012. And I was able to watch the last 2 seasons when they aired on television. And I don't know if I've watched it since. So it's been quite a while. I may have watched it like once since. But this is the first time I've gone through and actually rewatched the series from start to finish. And You may notice I didn't talk about season 1. Well, I don't know, I do this weird thing where I like start watching a series and then I maybe watch a couple seasons of it and then I stop and I watch something else and then I revisit it later. I don't know, it's just how my brain works. But anyway, I watched season 1 I think in May, and then I started up season 2 and was able to finish it here in July. So we'll see with these series, you know, sometimes I get kind of sidetracked. But anyway, I love How I Met Your Mother. It was such a formative show for me, you know, growing up. And it really, it's got, you know, a mixture of nostalgia and I don't really know exactly how to describe what I'm thinking right now, but it's an enjoyable series. It's funny, and it's a good time. Okay, last thing I was able to watch for this month is another rewatch, and that is the movie Ted. Came out in 2012, of course. This is the movie directed by Seth MacFarlane that is about an alcoholic, pot-smoking teddy bear, which is hilarious. This movie would have worked just fine if it was just like a normal dude, but of course they made it a teddy bear to make it more hilarious. This is a movie I've seen many times over. I think the sequel to this was one of my first R-rated movies, because, you know, I grew up in a very Christian conservative household, and my parents would never take me to R-rated movies growing up, so this was one of the first R-rated movies I was able to see in a theater, the sequel to this one. But I had seen this one several times up until that point. Good performance from Mark Wahlberg. Obviously, Seth MacFarlane is hilarious in it. I think everything he touches is gold. I've never, like, straight up disliked any of his shows or movies. So this was just a fun one when I was in kind of a comedy mood towards the end of the month. Okay, that's everything that I watched in July of 2021. Definitely leave me a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed if you're enjoying this series. I'm enjoying making these videos. Plan on continuing it as many months as possible. Next month, of course, I begin school. I'm a teacher, so I may not be quite as free to watch as many movies next month. So we'll see how many I get to for August. So like I said, definitely stay tuned. I hope you all have an amazing day, and talk to you later.